It's been nearly 1 month since Gabby Petito's remains were found at a campground in the Bridger-Teton National Forest. And the initial autopsy confirmed her identity and ruled her death a homicide. And then yesterday, the coroner said that she died by strangulation. I do want to bring in Fox 13 Tampa's Kelly Cowan. She is joining us right now to give us the very latest on what we heard yesterday from that coroner. Kelly, a good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Regina. And the coroner's report, very sparse. He explained in his press conference yesterday that according to Wyoming law, they're only able to give a cause of death and very few other details. And he also explained that, reiterated that, in fact, to reporters as they asked several questions of him, things like whether or not she was found buried, whether or not she showed any other injuries on her body. Of course, everybody's wondering more and more things about this case. They want information, but right now he has to follow the law. And so what he said was that she had been found to have died from strangulation, and he also gave a bit of a timeline, 3 to 4 weeks prior to her body being discovered. So that would give a bit of a timeline on her death to be sometime after that last August 25th phone call that she made to her mother over FaceTime. We also know that she posted for on social media for the last time on August 25th as well. So in the days following that, that's when it's estimated that she would have been strangled to death. Now, the coroner also would not comment on a suspect. Of course, we know that Brian Laundrie has been named as a person of interest in this case, but that has not been elevated since.
Yeah, Kelly, and I found it interesting yesterday, and we ended up getting an explanation, and perhaps you can break that down for our viewers, but there was very limited information that coroner could give us, and that's due to some laws in Wyoming. That's correct, right?
That's right. So that's what he explained, is that they were only to give a cause of death, and that's what he did, and that he really couldn't comment further. Now, some of these things aren't in his purview whatsoever. He is the coroner. His job is to find a cause of death, and so some of the questions involving the investigation or the suspects, well, that's up to the FBI, so that's who would give the answers to those. But as he explained when he was asked whether or not she'd been dragged to the spot where her body was found, whether or not any other evidence was found, even questions concerning the nature of the strangulation, whether that had been done with somebody's hands or whether they could tell that maybe a rope had been used. He really couldn't get into anything like that. So at this point, what we know is an approximate timeline as well as the manner of death that he determined.
Now, Kelly, I'm going to show our viewers here the statement from Brian Laundrie's family attorney, and it says Gabby Petito's death at such a young age is a tragedy. While Brian Laundrie is currently charged with the unauthorized use of a debit card belonging to Gabby, Brian is only considered a person of interest in relation to Gabby Petito's demise. At this time, Brian is still missing, and when he is located, we will address the pending fraud charge against him. What do you make of this reaction from the family attorney?
Well, what's interesting there is, of course, we knew that there was a warrant issued for Brian's arrest, not in relation to Gabby's death, but rather in relation to the unauthorized use of a debit card. But that warrant from the FBI did not specify whose card that was. So actually what I found most interesting about the lawyer's statement yesterday was that he specified that it was indeed Gabby's card. Now, that's what many experts assumed, or at least predicted it would have been, but we didn't actually have that, and that's what his lawyer is now saying, that Brian was using Gabby's card without authorization, which likely means she was already determined to have been dead when he was using that card, therefore would not have had permission to use it.
Now, Kelly, obviously the question still remains, where is Brian? What do you and your team know about search efforts that are going on for him this week?
The FBI, the law enforcement locally, they are still continuing to search, and they're continuing to search the Carlton Reserve, of course, that massive nature preserve that's right next to his home. And what former FBI agents are telling us is that they must have some pretty good intelligence to continue to go in to that preserve every single day and continue to scour it. So that's what they've been doing. They have not announced any other search efforts in any other parts of Florida or any other areas of interest at this point. So that's pretty much what we know to date, is that they're continuing to focus right there for Brian Laundrie. Another good point that, after speaking to a former agent, what she had to say was that, a former suspect who'd gone missing for about 5 years also had extensive background in outdoor training and camping. Well, he was missing for 5 years in the North Carolina wilderness before authorities finally caught up to him. So she wouldn't be surprised if it does take some time to track Brian Laundrie down.
All right, well, Fox 13 Tampa's Kelly Cowan with us here on Live Now from Fox. Thank you so much for providing us this update and this information. We'll definitely be checking in with your team soon. Have a great day.
You too.
Alrighty, everybody, and if you are just tuning into our coverage, that was Fox 13 Tampa's Kelly Cowan. Huge shout out to Kelly Cowan and her team. They have helped us bring you every development, every twist and turn in this case. Now, just to break down some of the information that she was giving us, if you're just turning on Live Now from Fox. So it has been nearly 1 month since Gabby Petito's remains were found at a campground in the Bridger Teton National Forest. The initial autopsy confirmed that her identity, the initial autopsy confirmed her identity and ruled her death a homicide. Then yesterday, the coroner said that she died by strangulation. Teton County, Wyoming coroner Dr. Brent Blue revealed Petito's cause of death during a virtual press conference regarding the final autopsy report. Here are some clips from that press conference right here. Now, like Kelly said, he wasn't able to reveal how he came to the conclusion that Gabby died by strangulation because Wyoming law actually prevented him from going into those details. He was not able to say if the method of strangulation was manual or if any item was involved. In his statements, Dr. Blue was able to say Petito's remains were likely outside for 3 to 4 weeks before being found. He said an exact time of death will not be determined for this case. He, quote, said, "We are only asked with cause and manner of death." And that's exactly what he said when he was asked by a reporter if the cause of death could lead to an arrest in the case. Now, Gabby Petito's fiance, Brian Laundrie, is the only person of interest in her case. He remains missing despite several weeks of searching in that wilderness reserve that you just heard Kelly talk about. So, when asked about the length of time it took to release the conclusion of the autopsy, Dr. Blue said his office had to wait for test results before concluding the report, including a whole body CAT scan, toxicology reports, and exams by a forensic pathologist and a forensic anthropologist. Blue confirmed also that Gabby Petito was not pregnant at the time that she was killed. So again, this is a story that we're following very closely here on Live Now from Fox. Yesterday was big news in this case. Now the question remains, where is Brian Laundrie?